Hello, welcome to day 8 of Viva La Vegan, The Power of 10 on marylou.com. I am Kyra, and today we're using another appliance that you maybe have never used or that is sitting in a drawer. I personally have one of these. It's called an Immersion Blender. My husband had one when we got married, and it has sat in the drawer for nearly 13 years now, and I have never used it. However, my mom and my sister swear by theirs. So today I'm going to make a couple of recipes with you and see how it works and see what all the fuss is. Immersion blenders can be used for soups and sauces and even smoothies or mixed drinks. This is also a good trick for if you have kids who maybe don't like chunks in their spaghetti sauce or something. And I like this idea because I have taken lentil spaghetti sauce, which my kids love, but they don't love to see the lentils, and I have put it into my blender. And it's dangerous to pour hot things into your blender and try to stir them. You could even blow the lid off your blender. So something like this immersion blender, you would just be able to stick it right into the pot of sauce and hide those tasty yet potentially offensive lentils. Today, I'm going to make a couple of things that you might not have made before, and one of them is homemade ketchup, and the other is a ricotta style tofu cheese. To start with, I have some onions. I cut up, diced about half of a medium-sized onion, and it has been sauteing in 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and the onions are now translucent, and so I'm going to add 1 diced clove of garlic, and I will stir that in. And let that get a little bit soft, but you don't want your garlic to brown or it will add a bitter flavor to your whole dish. You may not have thought of making your own ketchup, but it can be very tasty, and then you also know what's in your ketchup. No preservatives when you make it yourself. All right, and the next thing is I have all the other ingredients here, and I'm just going to add everything to it. This is a tomato puree, 28 ounces. And a 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar, a 1/2 cup of sucanat, which is unrefined cane juice crystals, and you'll find in a lot of ketchup or barbecue sauce recipes that they call for brown sugar, but sucanat is a less refined, more vitamin-packed option to use instead. And I have 1 tablespoon of tomato paste. And you may need more if your sauce doesn't thicken enough, but we're going to leave it on the stove long enough that it should thicken up. I have 1 teaspoon of sea salt. You could also use kosher salt. And then I have a 1/2 teaspoon of ground mustard, a 1/4 teaspoon of allspice, and 1/8 teaspoon of ground cloves. All right, I'm going to stir all these things together. We are not to the point of using the immersion blender yet. All of these flavors need to cook together, and I'm going to first bring this to a boil and then reduce the heat to low and just let it simmer for 45 minutes to an hour until it is as thick as ketchup. And so we'll come back after this has thickened up. All right, I should tell you that while you were not looking, my mom snuck a pinch of red pepper flakes into the ketchup. I am a spice wimp, so I would never put red pepper flakes in anything. However, if you like a little kick in your ketchup, you can add a little pinch of the red pepper flakes, or more than a pinch if you like. While this bubbles away, I'm going to show you something else with the immersion blender, and this is a ricotta style tofu. This is the immersion blender. It's now plugged in. Do not get your hands near this part at all. And to turn it on, I just push this button. You'll want to make sure it's down in whatever item you are mixing and that you keep it down, because if you lift it, whatever's in there is going to spray out, and you probably don't want that. Now I have 1/4 cup of raw cashews and 3 tablespoons of olive oil in here. I added the olive oil to the cashews because otherwise the cashews might fly out of the bowl. The olive oil helps keep them in there. Another way to grind up your cashews would be in a coffee grinder that you use exclusively for things like seeds and nuts, not for coffee. All right, we're going to give this a try. Use 2 hands. Keep it in there. Yeah. Grinding the nuts, and they're going to be totally pureed into the olive oil. Again, don't lift it out while it's on, or you will be sorry. It's coming right along. It's probably chopped up enough. And now I'm going to add 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast, which is a very inexpensive protein source, and it adds a nice salty, almost cheesy flavor to things. It really doesn't have anything to do with baker's yeast. It's just a nice, healthy, yummy supplement. To add all of this to this other bowl, which has 12 ounces of extra firm tofu. And I have crumbled the tofu a bit in advance. And I will then use the blender to combine everything. Remember, if you're going to lift it out, make sure you turn it off first. Alright, now I'm going to add a little bit of freshly chopped basil into this, and it just needs a little bit to kind of get it blended in. And now we have a tofu, ricotta style tofu that will be great in a veggie lasagna. Okay, our ketchup has been bubbling away for about an hour, and it's now a thicker consistency, and it still has chunks of onions in it, which is where the Immersion Blender comes into play. I don't know how well you can see that, but it smells delicious. I wish you could smell it. You'll want to make sure and hold the Immersion Blender all the way down and keep it low and just kind of stir it. And it will puree all those bits of onion and garlic that are still in there. all pureed, and I will show you a little bit of it. And here we have some beautiful ketchup with no artificial colors or flavors or high fructose corn syrup. Enjoy!